Welcome to the Valve Bounce, everybody. This one is a little different because it's war, but not on the racetrack, in the media pen. Supercars media, it is Aaron Noonan versus Scott Pye. We're going to go through their podcast and discuss what we may feel about it. Hey, Damo.
Hey, mate, this is juicy and spicy, if that's even possible.
It is the battle we didn't know we needed.
Certainly, in between rounds, we'll take anything we can get. All right, Let's roll the intro.
Yes, welcome back to the Valve Bounce. Damo, I'm back. I'm sorry I left you in the lurch.
Thank
The
you.
internet.
And the internet thanks you because, it's always a bit tough, bit different, but it's all good. You're back and we're all excited because this one just dropped like a bomb, like literally just came out of nowhere. We always knew some of this stuff was happening in the background. There's been talk, people are talking, but yeah, the podcast from V8 Sleuth from Aaron Noonan kind of got a bit aggressive and fiery, and then didn't Scott just like send one for a home run across the field, just smacked it back. Oh.
we are playing tennis in the media game, it feels. Definitely. And bit surprising from Noons, but we'll touch on that. I think, Scotty's done a pretty good job, to be honest. So let's have a chat and discuss. Let's get into the small things. So
the small things, he says, yes.
The backhanded comments. I think we need to play this little audio first because I think this will kick us off.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good call out. That we'll play some audio, and then we'll make some commentary around it. So a little bit different tonight, but we'll just let you listen to this part because we feel like this is a really strong opener. And it got very spicy. We will talk about the rest of the pod as well. But let's hit the hard stuff first. All right. Let's go. Take it away.
We got. I won't say who it was, but this one comment really pissed me off. And I was like, I got a lot of backhanded compliments about what we're doing here and the audience that we've got. And one of the people on TV said to me off air that, "Oh, you've done a really good job. You was trying to explain to me how to talk to a wider audience." And I appreciated all the advice I got from everyone. But then he threw in there, because really you guys have quite a niche audience. Scotty, you've done a really great job at capturing the Speed Cafe comments. And there's a little bit more than that watch us on TV. And I was just like, what the fuck, dude? Like,
disagree with that.
I do, yeah, but even so, I'm like, even if it is, they're still our fans of our sport. They're not Speed Cafe comments. People that comment on our sport love our sport. So I'm like, one, why are we insulting the fans of people you talk to? And plus, also, I think there is a broad audience here. There's a lot of people that just love our sport and they've been craving like-minded people. And when I went on broadcast and I was like, where's the passion that we share?
Yeah.
We literally wouldn't even know when the cameras turned on. We're like, oh, fuck, we're actually rolling here. We need to.
And that's why our shows go for so long. Everyone's like, shut them up. We're just having a good time. But mate,
the pub chatting about.
Right.
Well, so that's just a general person, I guess.
It was obviously someone in the crew, like in the telecast or the broadcast crew, that was. Yeah, I mean, I feel like was sort of like going, right, let's just straighten him up a little bit to make sure he knows we're in the big leagues now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you plebs at Speed Cafe and the rest at Apex. Like, I mean, that not only was it a backhand to Scott, but that was a drive-by of Speed Cafe. I mean, AVL is a very distinguished journalist. I think that's very uncalled for and possibly shows if it is somebody from Supercars, and I'm not saying it is, but if it is somebody within the ranks, that shows that there's more problems in the ranks than we really understand, because you shouldn't have that type of attitude towards anyone showcasing your sport at all.
Yeah, and I sort of feel like there'll be a theme like that I've recognized, and perhaps hopefully you will too, but there's a theme between us and them, and there's this big gap between a lot of the stuff that they're doing where there's no real contemplation of the people who are funding it, not just the sponsors, but the fans as well. But there's none of this that's getting anybody excited because they're doing all this cookie cutter stuff and trying to segregate people who could actually, the rising tide lifts all boats, right? And they are continually trying to squash everybody else to remain the premium product, when the only reason they're the premium product is because that's where we have to go to watch it, and that's it.
Yeah. That's exactly it, right? Yes, you provide us some content. I won't say a lot, but you provide us some content. Not that we're much better than, but we're not in control of the category. So
true.
I just like, it's not a good look. It's not a good start for them, in my opinion. They brought Scotty in to, well, hopefully, to change up a few things, but I don't know if he really got an opportunity to. So
no.
Anyway,
and he will touch on that a little later. I guess they really go through like trying to elevate the voice of the fan and stop treating the fans like they're dumb. It's all about the passion that he said there. And then in the next phase, really they go into some of the history, some of the stuff that's happened, which is the original
last year, wasn't it? Like at the Sandown 500 and stuff, where they sort of just ignored Scotty and I mean, it's silly, right? Like you can't just ignore people because you don't like what they say. Like this is the real world, right?
Yeah.
We love the sport. We're invested in the sport. That's why we're highly opinionated about the sport. That's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how you keep everyone.
We're giving you this for free.
But you're right. Like it goes through to the original where people in the broadcast were not showing Scotty or interviewing him during that first phase because they'd started Apex Hunters. They'd stirred the hornet's nest, and so during the enduro season they weren't showing. The fallout of that was people like Greg Rust and Aaron Noonan, who we will now refer to as Noons, nincompoop, about showing receipts, right? And so there was this big call of, you can't just say what you want on your podcast. You've got to be able to prove it. And I think Scotty really closes that loop on this little clip here.
But it is a bit of a, and I mean, I've had journos obviously with the stuff that happened with Greg Rust last year as well, and Noons saying provide receipts.
Yeah,
I provided receipts, showed the text messages. Not good. I didn't get my formal apology that I asked for from Rusty. And that's one thing that really frustrated me. I'm like, hang on, I showed you that it wasn't just my opinion that said I wasn't being filmed. Camera operator, you can call the guy too. He said it's okay, and I know.
Yes.
And this is the thing, isn't it? Right? Like you're showing receipt, and I all due respect to Greg Rust, I have a very high amount of respect for him. But yeah, if you are being shown receipts, there's also a bit of an accountability from yourself to say, listen, sorry, I got it wrong. Clearly there's something wrong there. Maybe it's something they need to address. I mean, they don't even have to say that they need to address it. Just say, oh, clearly I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Or just say, we've had a chat about it offline. It's all resolved, miscommunication, or like just acknowledge that you've actually, you've had some sort of engagement with it. Because clearly they would have received the information. So they must have figured out that, okay, maybe they weren't, telling lies. But yet, it's just unfortunate. And the thing that's really surprising that part was that Greg Rust seems to have moved on and sort of let it go. So maybe he's accepted he's like, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to call it out anymore. And he actually has a reason to kind of be defensive because he's worked with these people for many years through the programs. So he probably felt like he had to kind of be the voice and assuming that perhaps Scott was making it up or was exaggerating. But I don't really understand this. I mean,
why can't they call Scott? Why can't they call Scott and ask him? Right, like directly ask. Don't go on social media and ask him. Just call him and say, "Hey, Scotty," because I'm sure these guys all have their numbers, and go, "Hey, mate, just checking because you've made a pretty big claim here. Do you have any proof of this, or are you
Yeah.
spouting at the mouth? Because, I'm feeling a little, not attacked, but feeling, aggrieved by this because, I know these people, etc., blah, blah, blah. And that's not
Yeah.
how I perceive them. And then Scott can say, well, yeah, look, here's the cameraman.
He said you can call him,
You can call him. And then none of this escalates higher than it really needs to. I mean, it's great for us because we're sitting here having a chin wag about it. And ultimately, this is what we want between the drivers and the teams, right? We want to be talking about these types of niggles across the board. It just happens to be Media Land this week. So it's a bit strange.
And I was thinking back, though, the last time we had something, pretty juicy, it did involve a driver, but it actually did involve a lot of the media last time as well, if you think back to the Brody situation.
There's a constant need to control the narrative, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what we were saying back then, and this is showing, it's highlighting that perhaps there is some, we're not wearing tinfoil hats, that there's legitimately a desire for them to kind of have some control and, be very calculated about what they are presenting and how they present it. And it's got to be our way or no way.
It's funny, right? Because our, when you think about 10, 15 years ago, right, we were very much a corporate world, which is when this has all sort of become this way, right?
Yeah.
But nowadays, the world isn't as corporate. And there is a lot of freedom, not freedom of speech, but, you are able to have these opinions and discussions and not get shot down. And there's more platforms for these discussions. Yeah. So you can't control it. It's just impossible. So I think it's time that, like Scotty has said, and we can get to it, I'm sure, but, really you've got to say, we need to look inwards and see what we want to control from what we say, but then also allow others to have a discussion surrounding it.
Yeah. And I think that's also he also mentions in this pod during this little rant bit here that, he was someone that he did approach early on before Apex to say, hey, I'm fresh out of driving. I'd love to be the Ant Davidson from F1, right? I'd love to be that person and give the insights, given I've driven these cars. And that it was at the time, I think he said Nathan Prendergast, who obviously the broadcast pushed it up the line, and it was squashed, right? So it was interesting that was something that was asked. And then when he didn't get the response, basically he just stood back. He tried to help where he could with some of the socials where things were broken. But, in the end, the truth is that he's just been trying to make this a better product. And there's this resistance because of that old world thinking versus the modern world of, hacks like us get to put our faces on the internet. And why shouldn't we be able to? And why shouldn't you if you want to? Like that's what we should be doing because there is demand out there for it. So, yes.
Yep, they haven't found us yet in regards to that demand. But no, you're right. And I don't know. Yeah, I just think this is it's really gone beyond. But anyway, moving on, because I think another interesting part that came out was the fact that Shannon, which is Scott's missus, had to write to Noon's. I think just play the audio. It's probably better than me trying to explain it, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
Good people out there. But it annoys me when people say, I had this agenda, and then I have Shannon say, well, I had to ring Noonan and say, you're not allowed to write about anything to do with Erebus. You have to, otherwise you'll lose the book deal. So he's like, oh, okay. So that's why. I'm like, I'm out here like fucking speaking my mind and being passionate and talking about the sport. And then you've got people criticizing me that actually are keeping things from the fans. Because it doesn't help their back pocket. So that's what pisses me off. It's fine for people to sit there and criticize, but I'd like to see them go do a top 10 shootout lap, because that's the equivalent to me going up to broadcast when no one wants me there. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I said that I didn't like it, so I went and did it. I'd like to see some of the others do it.
I like it.
There we go.
And you can actually hear it in his voice. He's starting to sound quite despondent there. Like it's disappointing because he has so much passion for the sport. Now, I'm not a Scotty Pye fan by any stretch of the imagination. I imagine I can get along with him quite well at a pub. But I don't always agree with everything he says. But he has a right. He's talking about this sport not just negatively but positively, fairly well, in my opinion. And he's getting crushed for it because the narrative isn't what they want. And that I feel for him. That's hard. It's hard to listen to it on occasion, to be honest.
Yeah, it does really. It just highlights that. If it wasn't for the passion, he wouldn't keep doing it because with that amount of pressure, external pressure from basically the big corporate at the top, and people who are supporting the corporate like Noons, it's just a bit ridiculous. But it kind of leads into you could hear some of the emotion. And then it leads into like the audio clip that he plays from the Sluice podcast with that really kind of highlights, I guess, in my opinion, like when I heard it, was just how kind of brazen it was and just like unnecessary. It was just over the top. It was just an absolute drive-by. So we'll listen to it, then we'll make some comments on it after. I think is probably the best way. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I feel better. Do you?
It's a little bit here.
I'm not sold.
We can play the.
I'm not sold by your answer there, mate.
Obviously, get annoyed. It's more the noise around the stuff we do that's frustrating, I guess. But
here we go.
We'll play the clip because this is what probably annoyed me.
And Scott got an opportunity. He's been crying out for one for 12 odd months. He's been banging the door. He's been bagging people out. He's been doing his thing over on his channel. He got his.
So there's that one.
People are cheap.
Which, as I said, and Nathan, everyone at Supercars will listen to this, I didn't bang the door down and beg for anything. I never even asked again after the first time when I mentioned the Ant Davison, which is very different to what was being done. I actually never said I'd like to do that. I offered something new that I thought would help.
Yes, so that's the first part. There is a little bit to follow up, but let's tell me your thoughts now, mate. What do you when you hear that? Was I being too soft when I said it was a drive-by?
No, it's a drive-by, and
it's fucking worse than that, I think, mate.
And I think when like he's bashing down to get his opportunity, like it's a little belittling. Like, I mean, Scott is a well-accomplished driver. Done more than Noons will ever do on a racetrack. And he's also in the media as well. He has his own company surrounding it. So he knows how a broadcast roughly works or a production works. Yes, it's different to live TV, but he still has a greater understanding than your average. And to just, I don't know, just slap it away like that. Like I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me at all, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think it's clear that there is something that Noons is doing that is absolutely trying to attack and to squash Apex Hunters and Scott. And
do you think he's actually? Here's a thought. And do you think he's threatened? Do you think his job's going because they're taking?
Yeah. I mean, we see it all the time. I definitely think that he's worried, or perhaps that he feels like he should have been someone that should have been that, the commentary side of it. Maybe he wanted to be not as a commentator, but to add the commentary. Maybe that's where he wanted to be or wanted to grow his business, and he's not going to get that opportunity. Like, there's got to be something behind it of why you'd be so unnecessarily aggressive in trying to squash someone else's activities and stuff out there. And I really, I've lost so much respect. I didn't have a I really liked him. I thought he added a lot of value. And then the more
think he
media
does.
stuff he's done, and then the more like after the Erebus stuff, I pretty much stopped listening to most of his stuff. There were certain people that would go on his pod that I'd always love to listen to. But yeah, he's really, I don't know, mate. Just go back to stats, dude. That's what you're good at.
Yeah, look, I mean, I made that comment earlier that I don't
Yep.
like him so much as a journalist. I like him as the statistician type of guy. And, his earlier stuff was always, valuable and excellent. There's some of this journalism style thing. I don't think it sits perfectly with him.
Nah.
So I tend to agree with that. But I mean, that doesn't mean that he shouldn't do it. I mean, I'm not here to, I don't judge you. You can't do this. Look, I'm sitting here in front of a fucking microphone and this camera. I'm an idiot with nothing really. I've done a little bit of racing. I've done photography for them. Like it's nothing. So it's not for me to say, but I really think his best presentation of himself really comes from that statistician side, and adding, all the history of the sport more so than the journal and journalism. And I think he needs to probably just not react, potentially let the others, let Supercars do the talking, and keep yourself out of the crosshairs.
It's unnecessary. Like, there's nothing there. There is a little bit more, so about another minute or so, which kind of carries on with the person who was doing the pod with.
That was Mark Walker, by the way. Anyone who watched that or listened to it, he's I'll call him a fellow photographer of motorsport for the racetalk.com and Krause over there. And look, he's a decent enough guy. Doesn't say too much to you trackside if you say g'day, but he's obviously like me, has his opinion as well. So, and that's all okay. I'm not going to sit there and say anything else.
He's entitled to his opinion, but not really sure he's got any weight at all to be put into,
not
into
that we
this
do either.
But we're not like we're not trying to squash someone else, right?
No,
anyway,
well, that's true. We're not.
Let's listen to this.
And then because they like it. If you don't like supercars, you're not tuning in, are you?
Yeah, correct.
You don't want to be. You don't want to tune in and have the thing you like to be bagged out. I don't think.
I'm just going to pause it there.
Who's that talking?
Stop that, right? So, Mark, I'm sorry, mate, but people who love the sport are often the most critical of the sport. They are the most passionate. They will tell you what they don't like. They'll equally tell you what they do like. And you have to live. You can't just, those guys don't matter. Of course they do. You can't just squash it. We all matter. We all love the sport. Whether we're talking positively or negatively, we love the fucking sport, mate. Come on.
Yeah. And like, not to derail too much, but obviously pretty big Star Wars fan. And a lot of this kind of rhetoric happened with the sequels when the sequels came out because they weren't really as good. So there was this notion that suddenly if you didn't like them, you're not a real Star Wars fan, or vice versa. If you like them, you're not a Star Wars fan. When like not everybody who disagrees with you or makes in what I think Apex do, which is always constructive feedback or criticism, like you don't hate the sport. Like you don't suddenly become a hater because you've got a different point of view to someone else. It's ridiculous that notion of suddenly that threat has become so real for these people when you can't separate the fact that, hey, we could do a little bit of constructive feedback and make the product even better so we all get better, viewers, more viewers, we get more money from the commercial side. Like this is what we're chasing, and this is what we want to help the category do, whether it's us, whether it's them, whether it's Apex. And this like notion that suddenly, all right, it's either on or it's off. And in your case, he's saying you're off. You must hate the sport. You don't want to watch it. Don't watch it. You're not allowed to watch it. Like, get fucked.
You can't tell me what I want to watch and what I don't want to watch. Like,
yeah, agree.
You just, I think it's silly. You got to be really careful with that. Anyway, enough about.
I'll play the
that
last little bit of this bit because
Yep.
they talk about, they're trying to figure out, they thought it was Krause, but it's not. But yeah, they'll go through this bit. Hang on.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know who it is.
Krause, maybe?
Oh, was it?
But I think the thing is, it's not about bagging it outright. It's about having an opinion on the sport. So I think people do tune in to hear a point of difference rather than people just agreeing with each other.
Well, dude, like when you think about it too, all the shit that's been said over the last 14, 15 months on the pod, how long we've been doing it, at some point they've been either spoken about or they've been implemented or tried. And so, you know, people can say we're shit canning, but as you say, all we're doing is putting up suggestions on how we think as people that have been involved in the sport and also fans.
Yeah.
Number one, fans of the sport. That's why we do what we do, and we've put ourselves through what we've put ourselves through for the last 20 years to chase a dream.
Yep, exactly.
And put our families through it.
100%.
Is because we friggin' love it.
Yeah.
And we want to see it prosper and be good.
Yeah.
And survive.
Yeah.
That's 100% it.
Yeah, you can't say it better. It sort of, you know, reiterates what we were talking about anyway, but it's exactly what they feel and think, and that's what they're talking about with us as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, yes, exactly indeed.
Well, that leads on to the other thing there. There's one other comment that I particularly took offense to, which is the life approach comment from Noons. It's really, I mean, he had a good solid, 10 minutes, didn't he? Let's be honest, of just walloping. Yeah, I think just play it, Damien, and we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. All right.
I just, yeah.
Maturity. Let's go.
Life sometimes is about approach, which you tend to learn when you've been on the planet for a few more years.
Like even that's a bit of an insult to say when you've been on the planet for a few weeks, like we're immature or we don't know what we're talking about. I'm kind of
like, that's a hell of an insult, Scotty.
It's just, I messaged him and I said everything I'm saying tonight, and I said, like, you can say whatever the fuck you want about me. You're never going to get a legal letter from me. Speak your mind. If you think I'm shit, at least have the balls to say, Scott, I think you're shit. Speak Fair like point. On the pod. Just say it.
Just say it, you know.
Just say it, mate. Like, and again, this goes back to what we said about, you know, just contacting. These guys have each other's numbers, really. So why can't you contact Scotty and say, hey, look, I don't appreciate this, or we think you're doing this, or whatever. Have that conversation. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I just love it. And it was such a drive-by, but I will just say, for a bit of a lulls to kind of close out, wrap up this part of it, is there was one small drive-by, which I didn't pick up when I first watched this, but then running the review, like I had to play it for you as well, because it did kind of pop out of nowhere, if you like. And I like, what did Scott just say? And then I was like, rewind. Did he just say? Okay, so I'm going to play it now, and then we'll just see whether you can pick it up too.
Assist where I can, how I
Payroll.
can. So,
Look,
Payroll. I love it. I think it's fair.
Yeah, when you're getting smacked left, right, and center, if you can throw in a small little jab, that's fair play in my book. Because Noons went on a rant there, and I don't think it was a fair rant. And it was almost a character assassination attempt. And I actually think it might actually end up being more of a character assassination of Noons than it will be of Scott Pye, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts just to wrap up this part of it. I agree. I think that old world thinking is not working or resonating with the fans and the Joe public. So in the court of the public opinion, it's not going to work well for Noons. He is not going to come out of this looking as good as he will. It's not destroying his business or his relationships or anything else, but it is certainly, I think people will not think as highly of him just based on this kind of stuff. And clearly, if I can do a little drive-by, clearly not many people are listening to his podcast because no one in the media picked it up. It wasn't until Scotty's podcast, which they're all listening to, ready to cop it, take the little clips or to take it didn't pop off until Mr. Pye brought it to the attention of everyone. So interesting, don't you think?
So maybe, so what you're saying is maybe Noons can write out a check to Scott Pye for bringing him some eyeballs and ears, eh?
Yeah. I think there's going to be a few more downloads of the podcast
based on that.
And I am looking forward to hearing on when it's Tuesday of how Former and AVL kind of
tackle it.
Wrap this one up in a little bow, because I'm sure Former's going to have a few words.
Former is going to have a field day, and I should message him myself and say, if you haven't heard, Speedcaf got a drive-by and Noons was on a warpath, and just
make sure.
No,
we're sure you have, but we couldn't resist telling you again.
No, I'm sure he'll be all over it. Like shit on Velcro.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like that one. Very good. All right. Now, did you want to kind of go through some of the earlier parts or the other parts of this?
I think we should definitely touch on the broadcast feedback that Scotty had for them after his time at Ipswich. And we can sort of just touch on that while you sort that out, Damo. I'll just have a small chat about it, because I think it's nice to extend the arm and say, here, come do our broadcast with us and add value to our listeners and watchers and so forth. But the spot they gave him was very small.
Yeah.
Didn't present too much opportunity to really talk to the public. Excuse me, as I get a hiccup. Didn't give him much of a chance to talk to the mass public or anything like that. He sort of just did a Q&A with Jess Yates, which he touches on here. I won't spoil it. We'll sort of run it, I think, at some point. And then he offered a report back as well, which I thought was quite interesting. So, what were your thoughts on it? Because you got to watch the whole thing, mate. I mean, I was in WA chilling out, drinking wine and eating good food and getting fat.
Yeah. Well, you lucky bastard. I did watch it, and I guess that was my initial reaction. I was like, oh, is that all he's doing? Because it was really just those little cutbacks to the desk, and he sort of talks about it, and we'll sort of touch on it. There really isn't a lot of flexibility with how they've got it structured to do anything, which would actually add like so much value to the punters, and not this cookie cutter stuff, which you go back 10 years and everything's pretty much running the same as it was back then. Some things have been, adjusted and improved, and technology been added, but ultimately what they're saying and how they're doing it hasn't really changed and got any better for us. And so, I thought it was really good that he had the opportunity to reflect. And we'll touch on that in a little bit, but I mean, he didn't really fuck it up. There was no issues that he had. He just kind of did his job, and he even managed to get the old sound check in there, and he said that once, which was hilarious, because I'm not sure they would have liked that one, but
well, you got to do what you got to do, I guess. I think we should get into it. So, where do you want to kick off, mate? Do you want to talk about the great idea that he had to begin with, where him and Frosty could have done a grid walk?
Because when I heard this, I was just like, how good would this be? Like, just something so different rather than just the standard, oh, what tires, when are you going to stop, mate? And, oh, what's this going? Oh, it's a good quality, and, oh, it's a shit quality. And, just always the same standard on the grid. The comments are always, locked and loaded. Whereas this suggestion, which I'll play now, I'd be super happy with it.
That it's probably a small field agreeing with you there. But then I guess Friday night, I think it was, I straight away said, look, what about, I was looking at the schedule and I said, what about if Frosty and I got a handheld camera, just got someone to run with us, just someone run and gun. We go onto the grid for the race start at the back, and we just cruise down the lane for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and we go over and interview people. And then if you can't find someone for a moment, you got two guys that have good chemistry and a relationship already after being teammates that we could bounce off of each other. Frosty has a much better way of delivering things than me, so maybe he could come in and soften the blow before I come in and ask, Erebus, are you for sale? We get calls. I get calls about that all the time, like people wanting me to drive there next year. So there's that question. You go over to Charlie and finding out about David Reynolds. There's loads of questions that could have been asked up and down the lane. That would have been fun, and also a little bit more freedom to be yourselves and show the relationship that I have with, say, Frosty, for example, or even like you could have with JC if he was.
Yeah. How
so
good would that be?
That'd be amazing. Like, let's be honest, right? And here's the thing, right? We are in a sport where we are trying to attract sponsors. We're trying to attract money to it so that we can go racing more regularly. How good would it be having a yarn to the guys at the back of the grid who get no airtime, not in the race, not during quali, not any time really? They barely get spoken to unless they have an incident on track. How good would it be to have two guys that they know and will have some sort of relationship, good or bad, with, running down, asking you questions, more in-depth questions than the regular cookie cutter stuff, right? Because what we miss in supercars wholeheartedly is depth.
Yeah.
We get this surface level stuff. We tell you all these little things, but we don't have any depth to it. And I think that would be such a good way to just clean it up and get something different. It doesn't have to be the same guys either. I mean, you could quite literally swap it up. You could get Tim Slade back. You could get Todd Hazelwood back. You could get all these different guys coming in and send them down the grid, just asking silly questions, having fun, and putting people on the spot and making them either giggle or get frustrated.
I mean, it would just change that dynamic of, the way the grid is, and also the questions that have been asked. So it would allow for a bit more of that freedom that Scotty talked about, and trying to ask about a sale for Erebus, and trying to be the Nico Rosberg of the world, where he's got a bit more cheek because he's got relationships with these people, where he can kind of do those little cheeky questions.
Perfect example, Damien. You just mentioned Nico Rosberg.
Yep.
Now, personally, he drives me nutty. I struggle to listen to him.
Yeah.
But you can't argue the fact that he brings eyeballs and gets people talking.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
You can't. That's really what you want. You
don't have to
you
like
can't
it.
keep saying the same thing over and over, but that is basically it, isn't it? Right?
It is.
Oh,
it is. You don't have to like me. I don't have to like you. You can have a different opinion, but I can still like you. Like it just like the Anyway, I'll just stop.
Just stop. Yeah. And it kind of leads into, I guess he was talking about like where things are so rigid that the format isn't really open to change right now. Like they'd have to change a lot in the broadcast for it to happen. When they go to Jess, she's got set questions because then they play the footage over the top of the question. So she goes, "Oh, what a surprise! Will Davidson was down the back," and then they show his car going. So there's no real freedom to even have the proper conversations because everything's got to be kind of cookie cutted in place.
The worry is.
Yep.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go.
The worry is that if you make those changes right now, right, people like Jess Yates and maybe a few others, and look, I shouldn't say that. It might be able to work around it. I don't know, but it sounds like she would struggle to actually have conversation without the set Q&A style, and that's hard.
But she's the host. She doesn't need to be involved in all of it, and he does talk about that. Pardon me, like he does talk about that a little bit, where every time they go back to the desk, she's there and she's hosting that whole segment. And it's not that she's not good at that role. It's just that if you change that format and allow people just to have those conversations, it would change the dynamic. And I think maybe she can or can't run with that, but she doesn't have to be involved.
No.
Yeah. He then goes on to talk about a few other things, but the main thing I think that was really good, which he did, was a full report to kind of talk about his experience and things that he thinks could change for the better, etc. So he's not someone, Noons, that is just talking on his podcast to nobodies and, to the broadcast person of Speed Cafe commenters. And, he's actually willing to put things in place, and 1,200 words is no mean feat, because
and that's
many
commitment.
years since I've done that, like that many words, I would say. I'm sure over a week in emails, I'll probably do that, no dramas. But an actual document of 1,200 words, that's pretty big commitment.
Yep, 100%.
All right.
Any time you commit to that, so just that shows he's got passion.
Yeah, he's not a hater. He loves it. So yeah. All right, let's play this bit. All right, it's about a minute or so.
None of it is a shock. My report I wrote on Monday to Supercars was 1,200 words. I checked that in ChatGPT today. How many words was this? 1,200. So I gave a pretty detailed breakdown of my thoughts, what needs to improve, right down to the uniform, which is
that was a great point when you chatted to me about that, mate. I thought so true. Like, show people's characters.
Yeah,
very hard to show people's character if everyone looks the same. When it's a visual medium, like people are watching it. So
just quickly goes back to that. We've got this image that we have to uphold, and it's very corporate and a bit more old school rather than having that personality. But I'll let them continue.
You need to, express yourself visually as well as from speaking.
Even when someone tunes in, you might see someone that you relate to based on, what it sounds so corny, but what they wear, I think, is important. It shows personality, and we see it with Formula One, with IndyCar. They're all dressed and styled by their sponsors, and Supercar is fortunate to have the brand with Boss, which is awesome. Like, the clothing's great. It's just, for me, it's a little bit too stiff. But anyway, my thoughts on the way it ran.
So yes, that's the first part, I guess. And it's great to see that he's willing to commit such intent to help the broadcaster who effectively dislike him. Well, some people do. Yeah. Yes. All right. A couple more items of look, it goes back to this point of he was a bit sus and a bit worried about what was the intent of having Scott on the telecast, on the broadcast, right? Why did they want him there, and what was the kind of motivation for it? And he got a bit worried about it because he thought maybe it was going to be a little untoward. He talks to it here, and then we could touch on a bit later in the actual commentary. In the podcast, where he actually feels like a bit of a reflection on what that means, and perhaps his chat with Warburton as well about some of the feedback and how that looked. I'll just make sure I've got this on the right thing here. All right, ready? Here we go.
I've kind of come away though thinking, was it, really? And I do want to trust them, but I do worry a little bit that it was a token gesture to try and win over our listeners.
Yeah, right.
Which I hope it's not. I hope that they do take on board the feedback. And I had some
interesting.
I really interesting. So I actually forgot about this really quickly. Just before we went to air, Russell Ingle made a post.
Oh, hello Enforcer. He would be loving this shit. He's no fan of the broadcast.
Now I need to make sure that I've got it.
All right. While you're looking at that, I'll just talk about in that intent that imagine getting that opportunity to kind of see the inside of the beast, and think you could probably make some change, but still having that thought of why do they want me on there, and perhaps it could be as he said, trying to win over his podcast listeners and watchers.
Yep.
And I guess if that, just him thinking that in that mentality, it shows that's he thinks that they're still trying to do a bit of the squash down and get it under control, as opposed to opening the door up, which he reflects on later. But yeah, interesting.
All right, I'm gonna read this out. It is a bit of a long one. I'm sorry.
Okay,
and I'm sorry that I suck at reading too. But this was Russell Ingle. You can see it. It's on his Facebook page. All right. So Russell says, flicking around on YouTube on a rainy day, happened to catch the episode of the Apex Hunters United, and in particular Scott Pye's thoughts on his recent Supercars guest TV gig. I'll be honest, when I heard he got the call up, I thought it would be a bit like others in the past that suddenly go very quiet on the criticism when given a tin cup at presentation night. My thoughts were that Scott would go down the same road by being given a gig, but I was pleasantly surprised that he told it exactly how it was. In my own personal opinion, he is absolutely correct in his summary of how things work behind the camera and in the production of the telecast, including his character assessment of some of the individuals involved. It pushed me away from the sport that I was involved with for over 25 years. I know some of the pushback we used to get when we had the enforcer and the dude show going, but funny enough, some of these things that we used to discuss on the show would end up being implemented without any credit. Take note, there is nothing wrong with constructive criticism as long as you also provide a solution to the issue. The reason people do this is because they want what is best for the sport. But that only works if you acknowledge that there are issues, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be the case. I understand that the polished production thing, but sport is all about passion, spontaneity, and telling it how it is, not being silenced. I hope that they listen to Scott's feedback after the weekend, because I honestly believe it would be an improvement. The sport needs passionate people who care about what is best for the sport and not their own agenda. But I wouldn't hold my breath unless some serious changes are made. Over to you, James Warburton. Respect, Scott Pye. Nice work.
Bravo. Well done. Well done. And
thanks. That was hard. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you too, mate.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no, well done. It's funny. I've forgotten that when the enforcer and the dude were doing their little spiels, how things would magically happen on the broadcast. I've forgotten about that.
Yeah.
And, that recency bias of, you see Apex Hunters and then you kind of like, oh, okay, they're trying stuff. But yeah, it was happening all the way back then. So yeah, never giving credit, but just letting it drive by. Well, I'm glad that he also said at the end there, because it's a good segue, about James Warburton, because I guess Scotty does mention him. And I guess when Warburton, he hadn't even started yet, but he got Eddie Maguire's media team to come in and do an assessment. And so I guess you'd hope that the intent is there to refresh it and to make it better than it was, or something different. But Scotty here talks about his little interaction now.
Some really great chats after with James Warburton as well, and he saw my notes and was really positive about them, which was really nice. I think that he's a breath of fresh air. I think there's going to be some great change, and I do believe deep down that's why I was there.
That's driving it.
I think so.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
That's all I'll say. And look, I like Warbo. I liked him when he was in the role last time. I didn't like the change from V8 Supercars to Supercars. I think that needs to go back. But other than that, I always thought he was pretty good otherwise. So let's, fingers crossed, as I whack the mic, for something different. Fingers crossed that, we start to see these changes implemented, and it's not just box ticking exercise.
Yeah. And I think, to be honest, Warburton was a bit, he wasn't hit and miss, but he was definitely a bit polarizing last time. He definitely had some great stuff and some interesting choices in the way he did things. But what we're seeing so far from when he before he started to now when he's actually started, it really does look like that he is at least trying to address some of the major concerns that fans have about the broadcast, about the way the product is marketed and trying to get it out there, whether it's, he's really talking about doing overseas races. Look, I for me, I think it's kind of, if we could get onto the Singapore F1 grid, I think that's a win, right? Because it's just a spectacle, right? But there's no real reason for majority of the sponsors. Some do crossover, but for majority of the sponsors and for the cars that don't really, there's more worldly appeal now, but still not great because Camaro is not in existence. It's the old shape of Mustang. Dark Horse is the new one. I'm being pedantic a little bit, but
you are being very pedantic, but yeah.
But it's just like this stuff's not as relevant in that market. But I think getting onto the F1 grid would be great for everybody, even if you've got your smaller kind of sponsors, because they would get massive exposure, and that would be worthwhile. Like that's a branding, right? That's what we want.
Yeah. And everyone can go global, right? Sponsors 10, 15 years ago were less global. They were becoming more global. A lot now are. So, in this sport, it's less about relevance in terms of the cars that are on the grid now, and more about how we can bring, we've spoken about bringing money to the sport, how we can bring more global brands and businesses into this sport and get more eyeballs around the world on it. I will say there's a lot of discussion between, in this particular pod, Apex are talking about going and doing something with stacking pennies. I think that's fantastic. Like the more we cross over with NASCAR and things like that, and F1 and all that, the better, because it just brings more people to the sport, which in turn will bring more money to the sport. And then we can love supercars. It opens up doors. I'm not saying we have to race overseas all the time. We don't have to do that. NASCAR don't do that, but if it brings more to this sport, why not?
And
it's not like we're using Winton or Phillip Island.
No, and I guess it's remiss of me too, because we are getting the Supra, which is no longer going to be in production either. But so Toyota coming in, so that is a big thing,
big brand.
And if you think about your BJRs of the world, who have like rolling sponsors, can you imagine getting like a local Singapore company throwing in, $400K to BJR to run a sponsorship for that weekend?
Yeah,
because Middies or whoever else, like they're like, oh well, there's no market, we're not going there. Imagine, you could secure some of that. That would be freaking amazing.
Exactly. It's all about building, and we need to build together. And I say we. I'm not part of Supercars, but the sport needs to grow, and it needs to grow together, and everyone needs to get on the same freaking boat, and just rise. Like that's it's just what's got to happen. And this in-house fighting isn't going to help that, to be perfectly honest. It's great for us because we can just sit here and discuss it. Sorry, Scotty.
Very true. Very true.
Don't tell Scotty.
And I think, like some of the other big things that were sort of talked about in this, which I found really fascinating or interesting, was just about the pre-production meeting and a little bit of like what it really means for them as an organization, because they really seem to they don't really care, and it's just like we've got to have a meeting just so everyone's kind of understand what we're doing. That people are barely even attending, and they're they're still part of the production team, and it's so cookie cutter that they do the same thing all the time. No one even really needs to attend,
Yeah, and that it's kind of like drivers briefings. That becomes a problem if it's stale. And how do you know it's stale? Well, you've got somebody driving in their car in and out of range. That'll tell you it's stale because he's not even there. So they know what they have to do because there's no changes happening for too long. So, and on the other flip side is a 30-minute production meeting for an entire weekend.
I know.
That's interesting. We have longer discussions before we click the record button, Damon.
Yeah, well, like, our notes and preparation for this stuff is, going to be longer than that. Sometimes when we're in a rush, like even then, I think 30 minutes is probably the minimum it would take us to do our documents and, get our heads in the right space. It just feels like way too short.
Yeah, it does. It does. But they're professionals.
They're professionals.
What you laugh for?
Well, I mean, clearly they are. They're so professional. They don't even need a fucking pre-production meeting, a proper one. So maybe that's what. Yeah,
I will say, because I've listened to Rusty in one of his pods over the years talk about the Channel 10 days of Lee Diffie and Baz and all that.
Mm.
And he always remarked how much work everyone put in before they even attended.
Yeah.
And I think this also goes on to probably what we will talk about next, which is the camaraderie between everyone. So like Rusty always used to speak about, everyone was in, everyone was having a good time, everyone was working hard, everyone was this. Scott Pye literally said, nobody talks to each other.
Yeah.
They just go their own ways.
Yep. No chemistry. Yeah. Nothing.
That's bad. Like, that is bad. And that's something that needs to really change if that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, you can't manufacture that because people, I guess when you're in that professional environment, there is, you need that really strong leadership to be able to create that culture. And I think with the people, they're past that. Those people aren't going to be able to achieve it in the same way. So they need to find, new people that can kind of have this a bit more passion that they want to drive and get better and have the feedback and really dedicate the moments to how do we make it better for the fans? How do we make it better as an experience and as a telecast? So,
yeah, 100%.
Yes. So there is probably only just one small thing, and it just wouldn't be it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't have one small drive-by on our mate Big Nose. And I think we've quoted this one as fingers in every pie is the notes I've got here.
See what you did there.
Let's go.
I don't want to totally shit can it, but I was a bit that probably set me off at the start of the week going, well, this isn't. Yeah, I've been critical, and I can probably see why I've been critical now. And then I think that the team's a little bit comfortable. Everyone's got quite long contracts in place. One in particular is like he's got his finger in every pie, which I do think needs to be.
Hopefully not the Scott Pye.
Hey,
definitely not. But I think that you can't have someone having too much control or too much say. Drivers, like we're on performance review all the time, Barbs.
Oh, mate, yeah, and that's what blows me away. Like, I didn't obviously know that people have like long contracts, but yeah, it's no different to any athlete or a driver or any CEO or anyone in a high position, high influence position.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I thought that was quite interesting. Everybody knows that that Skaife's got a fair bit of control over that, and
allegedly. I'll just throw allegedly in it.
Allegedly,
just in case. I don't want to get any of those.
I think it's all right if we're quoting other people, aren't we? Quoting. Oh well, anyway.
Hopefully.
But I did that little. He didn't even realize he made the pun about his surname, and Barbs was straight on it. He's just like
a couple of beers deep will do you wonders.
So that kind of wraps up, I think, most of the stuff. There was some chats, as we said, about the chemistry, about calling people out if they're wrong. We don't do that on air, and Scott was like, "Oh, if I made a mistake, just call it out."
Absolutely.
Talk to him. Yeah, go.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like you just got to call it out. Like if I make a mistake, you tell me. If I see you make a mistake or hear you make a mistake, I'll tell you. Like, we're
don't care enough.
human. Like, people don't. Yeah, well, that's it. But people make mistakes, right? The classic one that he pointed out was the fact that he went to the Supercars website to get the schedule for the qualifying, and it said 10 minutes and 8 minutes. So he went with that because he screenshotted it on his phone, and it was wrong. Well, that's not Scott Pye's fault. I'll give you the red hot tip.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we can call it that Scott was hard on himself saying, I made the mistake. Right? It just, again, shows that disconnect between the Supercars world in the ivory tower and what they're giving the fans. Right? Fans aren't going to check the subrecs to see, is the website correct? Like we're not going to do that. Even hardcore ones like us, we're not going to dig into that deep unless, I don't know, there's some random reason that we'd have to, but we're not going to touch that. And they can't even update that. And I think if it was at the bar, like these boys, one would have said it. He goes, no, that's not right. And then the other one would have gone, I just got that off the freaking website. Like,
what do you mean it's really? Not right? Oh, yeah. It needs to update the website.
Rather than Scotty taking some sort of accountability, he didn't even have to, I don't think.
It's an element of perfection that needs to go, because there is no perfection in anything that we do as humans. We are imperfect, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if something comes out that's slightly wrong or misconstrued or whatever, well, you need to be able to have that discussion, because if you can't, what are you even doing? Right? Like, what are we even doing? Anyway, let's go to some off-track topics. Damo, that concludes our media, I don't know, discussion, I guess. We'll call it a discussion, frustration. Scotty Pye. If you got through this, Scotty, and read it, mate, just know that we think you're doing a great job. And keep bringing it. I don't always agree with what you say, but that's the fucking point. So
yeah, we love it.
We love it. Good on you.
Yeah, you and Barbs doing an awesome job, man. So we love that.
Yeah, and Barbs, you're a legend. Sorry, mate. Yes. I'll lift you out. He's not buying me. He's not buying me a fucking beer, is he? that prick Steve and didn't even mention me.
Let's wrap up with some because there is a few topics of discussion that have been on across multiple different sort of news sources, but LeBrock, he's leaving Erebus.
Yeah, to go back to MSR. He's swinging again.
Like those, the cups, you got to find the ball. We'll just shuffle them around, and hey, it's still in there.
Revolving door. Interesting at MSR because on that too, because I think it's fairly knowledgeable now. I don't think it's not said, but that Hill is going to BJR in a Supra. So that's one seat out of MSR. But the interesting part is that Nick sounds like he's out the door with a year to run on a contract.
Which is very strange that it definitely hasn't been working as well as they'd hoped. I guess it started well, and then Hill has been dominating him. And just quickly to touch on Hill, I think he's probably lucky that he might have signed that deal before he started ramming people off the road, because I'm not sure that would have done his stocks any value. And I'm sure...
No, Dave. He was testing out the Bates theory. He knew that he was a rally driver at heart. He just wanted to see how he'd control the car on the grass.
Yeah, show us what you've got, mate.
Yeah.
Let's see how these interlocking wheels go, because imagine if they had actually interlocked at that speed. Jesus,
man.
Like, just should not have happened. But it's so it is very interesting because it's a bit of a shuffle there. But Hill was kind of unexpected to be leaving. He's had a reasonable year, but probably started stronger. As though I think MSR as a whole have kind of dropped off a little bit. But he's going to go to BJR, and then Nick with a year left on contract. My goodness.
I don't think he lands anywhere either, just quietly. I think there's too many good quality drivers coming through now that he may very well just find himself in a co-driver seat for next year.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that goes. Because then you think about JC is going to be a co-driver.
Wow.
Cat potentially.
Maybe. Yeah.
You've got some pretty big names.
Yeah, some fairly large names.
And so rather than the top teams kind of just getting the ex-supercar drivers, like your WAUs and your Triple Eights, there's probably going to be either some of those teams fully stacked with ex-drivers as the co-drivers, or you're going to have some filter down to some of the other teams that wouldn't normally get that opportunity. So it could be interesting.
You know what I'd like to see? Just
yes.
brainstorming right now because my brain's in overdrive because it's past 9 o'clock, past my bedtime. I'd actually like to see a system implemented for co-drivers that people who are directly out of the sport. Oh no, you wouldn't want to do that because then Frosty wouldn't get with Cam. Like I was going to say, you almost want them to go to the lesser teams to try and even up the field a bit, but ultimately you kind of want to just see the best guys with the best cars. So fob that. Don't worry about it. I never mentioned it. Scrap it.
Now I'll delete that and I'll just move on to someone that was on the way out, but then seems like that revolving door has kept him in the fold. Is Reynolds is looking to stay?
Yeah, no, he's
did
good.
Not see that coming.
1 year contract, mate. 1 year contract, I think, is the go, with maybe an extension into a co-drive role after that.
Yeah.
And I've got a theory because he jumped onto the football field the other week and he kicked a goal.
Best Essendon player we've seen in years.
At least he wasn't junked up.
Yeah.
He kicked a goal and then look at that, he's got a contract. So must have been written in his previous contract. You kick a goal on an AFL field, mate, you'll get the call.
Yeah, I mean, it would end up being reasonably good for him given the success and some of the skill that's been pushed in from GM down. The Team 18 are doing much better, of course. Obviously, Anton's most of that at the moment, but Reynolds, as I said, from last weekend or the weekend before, I should say, it's already been a little while. That he did have some pretty good results, a bit up and down, but not too bad. And so another year when they're the homologation team, co-drive after a couple of years, that could be quite a good little run for him.
Yeah, it'll be a good gig. And just quickly before we sign off here, the other thing that was in the news was that whole Chev thing of come to the States and all that was only taken up by Team 18. And I think that's actually an opportunity missed by the others. I understand why, but I think there's a lot, in terms of trying to bring that whole thing together as one unit. I think that's an opportunity missed by them. So all good for Ford fans, though, because, that means that we should be more aligned next year and Chev should fall apart. And the only people we have to worry about is the Toyota advantage that will surely happen.
What a feeling.
Actually, Damo, the P word's back. Parody.
What's happened? You know what's happened? A whole lot of shit where Kostecki stormed into the Tickford thing. Basically, I would suggest on good authority that was something along the lines of, if you guys don't fucking start supporting us to get this shit over the line.
But yeah, I'm sure that's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bullshitting. I don't really know what was said, but yeah, they obviously had some pretty big conversations. And there's a whole bunch of shit going on from obviously people sending cars overseas for the wind tunnels, trying to get some parity for the Fords before we get to the mountain.
Bathurst, yep.
I kind of hope that they don't do too much for the bend, because typically that's a reasonable event for us.
Yeah.
And if they give us something and then we smash them, then they'll take it away again for, so I'm kind of hoping we go through the bend, then we can make a change and hopefully it works for Bathurst.
Yeah, look, I think we're all in agreement. Even Scotty Pye and Barbs said it in theirs. that we can't have another Bathurst. We've had 2 years of utter shit, and it can't happen again. You can't have a third year of that. This is our grand final, as they say, our major sporting event. It's the one that we get the most eyeballs on. We cannot afford for it to go down the way it's gone down the last 2 years. It's just can't happen.
Indeed.
Just can't happen.
That brings us to the end, mate. We finally got there. Thanks if you are still with us. The magic word this week is
Scotty Pye. No, just go Pye. Pye. There you go. Get to the end. Pye.
Get to the end. Yeah, one day someone will watch to the end, I'm sure. We love you all.
We do. We really appreciate it. Maybe we should say we really appreciate it at the start so that they see it. You know,
and if you're listening on the audio and you did make it to the end on the podcast, then you have to put a comment on one of our posts, all right?
Yes.
On the Insta or Facebook, all right?
Yeah, so, please. We're dying here. We need you. We love you.
We love you. But that is the end, mate. Thanks a lot. We will catch you in the next one. As always, follow us, do your thing on the socials, the Valve Bounce everywhere. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Davo. Have a good one.
Bye.